And welcome back, everyone, to Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. Glad you all could join us once again. Excited to welcome back. She's really now a regular contributor to our platform. So we're excited to welcome back Dr. Velma Bagby to our program. You guys know her as the author of the book, The Catch No One Wants. You all see it there. Also, The Catch No One Wants, the homework basket. I'm going to be spending a lot of time talking about this today, but we're going to talk to Dr. Velma not only about the journey of being able to write these books, to be able to give us really some practical advice for all of us, but also to be able to show how by following what is Bible-based, how it can be able to benefit us, whether we're single or married or looking into being married as well. If you guys are not following Dr. Velma online, we will let you guys know how to be able to do that. For those tuning in on the Amazon Live side, I want to type you guys a welcome message in here. I appreciate you all being on with us. You guys will notice we're going to go ahead and highlight, first of all, Dr. Velma's book, The Catch No One Wants, the novel, which is the black-covered book. Dr. Velma, welcome back to the program.
Thank you so much for having me again, Cyrus. It's always a pleasure.
The pleasure is definitely all mine. Had a great time with you for Prime Days. I was glad you could be a part of our Prime Day celebration here on Amazon Live. You know, I wanted to take a different slant on this conversation today, Dr. Velma, as I try to do as we have these different conversations. And I really want our audience to see there's so much you can get out of these books, right? And you can see the time I've been having these conversations with Dr. Velma, no conversation has been the same. And that's because she's packed so much into these books that we can really be able to create our own study groups based on these things she's been able to cover, especially when it comes to the homework basket. But Dr. Velma, I want to ask you, what has that been like for you to have two books, but so many different slices of discussions that can take place within these two books?
Look, I was really shocked myself in the fact that this came about in the way that it did. Just trying to figure out where to put this additional information, because I know that I was writing a fictional book. And so it was a little daunting at first, because I was thinking, okay, well, I can't include it, and I can't include it. And then the thought was, okay, God, if I can't include it in the fictional novel, where do I put this stuff? What happens to those who really want to know what was in that homework basket or wicker basket that the father provided his daughter in the end, so that she can begin to work on herself? And so this is when this idea came to mind. I said, you know, somebody else said, well, now that's an ingenious idea. I said, it is. I said, to take all of those tools and put it in a separate book as a nonfiction book, because it's a great study guide. It's a great discussion piece for those who are gathering and want to have more discussions around the topics.
And so that's what I want to get into with you today, because I think that is the thing here. And what I want us to focus on, the majority, is going to be the homework basket, Dr. Velma. But I want us to begin, though, with the novel, because the novel kind of sets the stage. So you kind of just kind of gave us an idea of how the homework basket came about. I want to talk about what it was like for you to take something like the homework basket that we were able to discover with Grayson. What was it like for you to build a whole book around that, and to really give something practical for the reader?
Well, some of these tools I already had. I already had developed them. I already had them. They were available as PDFs. At some point, I offered them as a free download, and I eventually removed them when I knew that they were going to be included in the book. And so these were tools I already had available. And I just wanted to make sure that, like I said earlier on, that an audience that wanted more, wanted to know more, wanted to go deeper, would have this available to them. Now, there are folks who just want to read the novel, and that's it, and that's perfectly fine. But for those who wanted to have more of a deeper conversation around the topics, this is what it was designed to do.
And I think that is the big thing here, that you're able to give us that. So I wanted to touch on 3 points out of the homework basket. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it there. So I want to let our audience know on the Amazon Live side, if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. For those tuning in, also, we're joined on Facebook, and we have you tagged over there on Twitter as well, Dr. Velma. So definitely invite them if they have any questions as well, to be able to let us know that too. But the book, The Catch No One Wants, I have the paperback edition here, but you guys can also get the Kindle edition there for $4.99. I have it highlighted there. And then the homework basket, you guys can get there for $5 as well. So I want to go to the homework basket and kind of talk about how our audience can really bring this to life for themselves, Dr. Velma, because I think
Yes.
that's the great thing for this. So we know from the Catch No One Wants that what Grayson the father was able to do is to
Yeah.
show by these different type of fish about the
Hmm.
different type of men for his daughter Veronica. You kind of
Right.
addressed that in the first part of the book. I want to go though to page 21 because
Hmm.
this is one of the messages that Grayson was able to show. And again, this is in the homework basket for those who have it already. If you don't have it, feel free to be able to click over there on the Kindle edition. You guys can go ahead and start looking at this ourselves. And this is what really struck me. And you and I have had a conversation about this, but I want to actually show our audience how they can use this homework basket. The topic is you are the prize. And what you do there is you make a statement, but then you're able to kind of back it up with scripture there.
Hmm.
And the main point there is getting, especially in this case, getting the woman to be able to understand her
Yeah.
worth, her value, and
Yes.
what she means to God and what she should mean to that man that she wants to marry. Talk to us about why that's important for you to be able to reinforce that. We would hope that women would see that for themselves, but why was
No.
it important for you to reinforce it this way in the homework basket?
Because women don't see themselves that way. They're very
Yeah,
few. I mean, you've had some great, phenomenal women on your show who understand it and know it, but there are so many who don't and
yeah,
don't embrace it. And so that's how they get into some of these difficult relationships that they fall into. It's because they don't know what their own worth is. And so the men who like to take advantage of women who don't have um, a good value of themselves, of the good view of themselves, they enjoy taking advantage of women like that. And so they're easy to them to capture their, it's easy for them to capture their attention. And so it was important for me to break it down based on what God says, because outside of what God says is not the truth. And so what
yeah,
he says is the truth. And embracing that truth about yourself is important. And that's why I was able to spell it out that way when you want to get more in depth with what the prize really means. You are the prize. And it doesn't take a man to tell me that if
yeah,
you know it already. And
right.
so if you are already, if you know you're beautiful based on what God has already said about you, then it doesn't take someone to say or convince you that you are beautiful, because
Right.
you have embraced that fact already.
And that is such a good point. I love the fact that you're able to kind of share that with scripture as well, Dr.
Mhm.
Velma, because I think for a lot of people, as they kind of look at that, I think the other side of that is unfortunately there are some women who've never been told it, right? They've
No,
never had anyone say it to them.
that's right.
So that's why it's so hard for them to believe it about themselves. So what about for you? I mean, we're talking about these books, but what has that been like for you in the offline conversation and the in-person conversations? What has that message been like for you to share with women to understand their worth and what they're bringing to a potential mate?
It's so important. It's been conversations I've had for many, many years, and especially in having conversations with other single women, when I'm conducting, pre-marriage counseling. My husband and I, when we conduct marriage counseling together, because he's my pastor, it's interesting what you get to see in having those conversations with the single women. You get to pick up on that right away. Even my own husband, he'll say, you really need to talk to that particular person. I said, I plan to. Just listening to them talk, you can tell where they are with their
Right.
view of themselves. And so it's more prominent than I wish it was. It really
Yeah.
is. And that's why it was so important for me to include this in the book, because so many need to see it, need to read it, need to validate it, because it's in scripture. It's what God says, and what God says, who God says you are is a fact. And it was important for them to embrace that and know that.
Dr. Velma, I want to talk about this point in relation because this is what I'm hoping people have done. People who have read the novel To Catch No One Wants and think about
Mhm.
Veronica. Veronica is someone who grew up with a father who did appreciate her, who did try to help her to see her worth.
Yeah.
And it still didn't stop her though from some of the things that she went through. What do you want those women to know though? Because there are some women who will feel like they just missed the mark right? I mean, they may have had someone in their family that told, who tried to get them to see what they had to offer. What do you want those who may have not recognized it for themselves up until that point? Maybe they had people reinforcing it for them,
Yeah.
but maybe they didn't see it for themselves. What do you hope they're able to get from the homework basket when it comes to this point?
Well, I remember prompting my husband when having conversations with our own daughters and just encouraging him on some of the things he needed to say to them. It's not automatic. It's not something that's automatic for everybody. And so it was me kind of sharing with him, okay, this is what you need to say. I said, you're the very first man in their lives, and you are going to have to be the one that reinforces who they are. And so just kind of prompting and encouraging him in terms of the things he needs to speak into their lives. It's the fact that Grayson taught the class on dating with intent, but doesn't necessarily mean he was good at communicating that at home. We don't know what was missed. She went through the classes, but maybe he didn't reinforce it at home because, again, she had gone off to college. She completed her college degree, and she was doing very well successfully in her career. So it could be that she was at the stage where he could not reinforce it. I don't know. That was not something I got into deep discussion or thought about. But what I do know is there must have been something missing between the time she attended those courses, went off to college, started her career. There was a gap there, and maybe he was not good at communicating that to her directly as her father. I don't know. That's a possibility. I know it can happen because I know in my own house, I had to encourage my husband. You're the first man in their lives. You're the first one that's going to have to say they're beautiful, they're worthy, they're the prize. And so those are the things that we try to reinforce here. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to always get it, because we did have an older daughter who struggled in the beginning, and we both were not happy with the first choice she made. So you can only do so much. And so after that poor choice, she came back and said, look, I need to do this the correct way this next time. And she did. She applied the principles that I talk about in this book. So there are people who think they know the best route for themselves, like Veronica, despite what you may be given and told and how it's been reinforced. It's up to them to embrace it and accept it.
Such a great point. Earl is joining us from the Carolinas. He's giving you a compliment there, Dr. Velma. He says, I love a good head wrap. Dr.
Oh my
Velma's
gosh.
rocking it.
I just got over COVID. And you do not want to know what's underneath.
Oh, hey, but it's matching the book cover as well, Dr. Velma. I have to say, it's matching the book cover as well.
I tried.
I want to say for those who are just tuning in, you all are watching Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live, but also streaming on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. We're talking to Dr. Velma Bagby. Right now we're discussing The Catch No One Wants, the Homework Basket, which is the nonfiction book that she's written. She also has the novel, The Catch No One Wants, and we'll go ahead and highlight it again on the Amazon Live side. If you guys check out the carousel, though, you'll see other books by Dr. Velma as well. The next one I'm going to talk about, Dr. Velma, is something that I think is great that you and I have discussed, but we haven't done it from the homework basket this way. And that is about the action of waiting. The action of waiting.
Yep.
And that's what you discuss on pages 28 and 29 of the homework basket. And you begin by saying the wait, let him find you. And again, this is very 2022-ish, even though it's something I know that does go on, has been going on for a while. You again, what I love about these messages, you have the scriptures there for them to be able to read and really reflect on. The first one being wait on the Lord, found in Psalm 27:14. What has that been like for you to share with people at that point, Dr. Velma, that waiting in itself is action?
It is action. I remember having to prepare for a message I had to preach, and it was based on Isaiah 40:31. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. And as I was studying it, I said the original language for the word wait was not sitting around with your hands folded, twiddling your fingers, waiting for what you hope to happen. It's not. It's you being active. It's you continuing to do what you've been called to do, whatever way you've been called to serve, whatever job or task you've been given to do. That's waiting. That's continuing, knowing, okay, when it's ready, I know you're going to let me know, God, so I'm going to depend on you. But while I'm waiting for you to make your move, I'm going to continue doing what you have placed in my hand to do. And so that's true waiting. It's active. And what I find is in my conversations with women is they're waiting, like I just described, the opposite of what that word really means. Sitting around expecting someone to show up, going to church hoping to find someone. And I tell women all the time, who said that the church was a supermarket? Who said that? Who taught you that? It's a place for broken people to go. So if you can imagine that, and there you are shopping for someone there. And so women tend to be impatient in this area. And that's why it was important for me to emphasize the importance of the wait, because there's beauty in it. There's beauty in waiting. There's beauty in unwrapping what God presents to you, and you didn't know it was there, and you didn't know anything about it. There's beauty in discovery, is what I talk about a lot. There's beauty in that. And so what happens is we get too anxious and we want to rush the process because we're not good at waiting.
And you have an acronym here, Dr. Velma. You use willingness, active, impatient, tolerant. I want to go to impatient for a second. You write, be anxious for nothing, being too eager or in a hurry can ruin or disrupt your blessing. And that goes to the point you were just making there. But this is what is interesting to me, Dr. Velma. And this has almost become a joke. And it's sad to say, but we actually see it in movies where people go to church to meet people. That that's a thing we see, right?
Yep.
That I'm going to go there to find a woman, to find a man. That's what that has now become the thing. Is that part of what you've been able to share with people too, as you were just talking about the supermarket, that we have to rethink, for one, what it means to get a mate, which we're going to get into another point here in a second, but also the way we look at our worship.
Well, when I talk to women, I explain to them, if a man is busy doing what he's been called to do, he's not even looking for you right now. He's busy doing what he has been called to do, whether it's in his business, in ministry, whatever that calling is. When you think in terms of Adam was busy naming the animals. He wasn't thinking about the fact that he was naming animals that were coupled off. He didn't make that determination. God did. And so in doing so, the only way that God could slow Adam down was to put him to sleep, not make him a part of the process, while he takes a rib, which has DNA in it, which is what we know now, built the woman he wanted for him, and then presented her to him. And so you could see in the process of that he was busy doing exactly what he was told to do. He was given his charge. He was naming the animals. He was doing what he had been called to do, because his fellowship in the garden was with God and God alone. And again, another clue to those women who are waiting for their man. He is busy with his own fellowship. He is busy with his own charge that he's been given in business and in his way, in the way in which he's serving God. And so therefore, he is not sitting around waiting for you to walk across the grass. No, he was busy in what he was given to do. And notice that God didn't add the woman until after Adam did what he was called to do. Name the animals. He talked to him about his charge, and then he put him to sleep. In the process of taking the rib out, he took out he had DNA in it that matches Adam, built the woman that he has for him. And I say this all the time to women. God has to build you and prepare you for the man that he has for you, because you are going to be the right fit for him. In other words, you should match him. In other words, you should have the DNA in you that came from him, from that rib from the side, so that you match the way you should. And so that's what I explain to women in terms of preparing themselves, because you're going to be built and prepared just for the one that God has for you. So God is not going to just prepare him for you. He's preparing you for him as well.
Yeah. And there is work definitely involved. That's the last point I want to talk about, Dr. Velma, out of the homework basket. Again, we're spending more time out of the homework basket this time. Again, the Kindle edition is $5. You also can get the print edition as well. We're going to go to intentional dating, Dr. Velma, on pages 44 and
Okay.
getting into 45. I'm going to focus on page 44 because there you have what you call intentional dating questions. Ask the first four on date one. But I actually want to read this point that you say in the book. The questions to ask on your initial date were addressed. You are not expected to ask all the questions on the first date, but you want to inquire about his intentions during that very first conversation.
Yeah.
We do not intend for the initial questions to occur over the phone necessarily. It is important to ask them on the first in-person date. If you ask them questions over the phone, you will miss the body language he displays while answering them. Body language can reveal red flags. Your first date goal is to get through the initial questions, especially number 1 through 4. So I want to talk about this. 2 points
Mhm.
you make there. First of all, most people are not being intentional.
No, no, no.
So why is being intentional important? And then we'll get into why intentional dating is important.
Because why are you dating? If this is a social
Yeah.
event for you, then keep it that way. This
Yeah.
book is not talking to you. It's speaking to those who want to date for marriage, which is what God had set it up to do. Again, dating for the purpose of socializing, that's the 200-year-old process. Dating with the intent to marry, that's the 2,000-year-old process, where God had designed it so that we would discover who our mate is. Because again,
Yeah.
we talked about before how a man chooses his wife, a man find it. That word originally means meets her. So when a man meets her, he's going to know who she is. And so, therefore, it's important for us to go back and apply what we have been given. Going back to, we talked about the keys once before. God
Mhm.
says he's given us the keys to the kingdom, and we don't know what's on our key ring. We don't know what key unlocks what door. We just don't know. We have a bunch of keys, and we're unfamiliar with what those keys are used for. And so that's why this was important to go back to the way it was designed to be. And so why not ask the pertinent questions? If we're going into business with one another, we'll ask these questions of a business partner. We'll
Right.
want to know specific things about them, how successful they are and what they do, and how it matches what we're looking for. So this is a transaction. You're getting ready to look for someone who may be your mate as God reveals or unfolds it. So ask the right questions. And that's why dating with intent changes the strategy of our dating practice so that we're serious about really understanding who this person is, whether it's a male or female.
Mhm. Such a great point. And that brings us then to what you write about the question. And that is this seems simple, but again, as we know, these are not happening. What is your purpose in dating me? Now that seems like a very simple thing, but
They're not asking
yeah, why is that question, even though some may say, oh, well, that's a silly question, why is that question the most important question?
because then you'll discover what his intent is. He
Yeah.
may have the same goal in mind, and that is to discover who his mate is. And I remember we talked about the fact that a man knows the moment he meets her.
Mhm.
That's the one he knows. And so he still may go through the process even then, not say a word about what he feels about the person, but still goes through the process to then, okay, let me just discover more about this person. Let me just make sure this is the person. So he'll still go through the process. But women tend not to even focus on those things. They're so busy focusing on the conditions, what he does, what he makes, what he earns, what he looks like, how tall he is, how short he is, how successful he is. They're focusing on those kinds of things rather than the serious dater who's dating with intent, who will ask the pertinent things so they know up front. And my daughter, going back to her when she practiced this, I remember the online dating process was really popular when she started out. This was like maybe 15, 20 years ago. And I remember her asking these, and she said, Mom, you won't believe how many people I've been able to just eliminate, not
Yeah.
waste my time with just that first question. I said, sure. I said, because they're letting you know right away. They're only there to have fun. That's
Yeah.
it. And so
So
it says a lot.
yeah, I was going to say you say also, and I want to get this point too, Dr. Velma. Why is it important for us? Because we're dealing with a generation in 2022 that spends more time on their phones, on their social media than they are Even spending time in person. But why are these things we should be able to ask face to face rather than through a text message or on the phone?
Going back to the body language that you miss, when you're texting something, I've had some text messages that got out of hand, caused the wrong reaction because there's no emotion behind them. And so it was taken incorrectly. Well, at least it was taken in a way that you'd intend. And so those are the kind of things that can happen when you're just communicating with text. I know I have my youngest daughter who dated, and they communicated most of the time through Instagram. They didn't make phone calls. They just talked through Instagram. And so there's all kind of methods, but you cannot pick up on, and there were some glitches too, because you cannot pick up on the emotional side of what they mean. You can't feel what they're saying. You can't see their response as they're talking. You can't hear their tone so that you can tell if it's something mean, something critical. You can't tell any of that. Or is it something innocent? And so you can't pick up on any of those social cues at all without having that person in person.
Such a great point. Such great points. And again, we just scratched the surface here. As you guys can see, this book looks small, but there's a lot in this book. Again, this is the Catch No One Wants, the homework basket. That's what we were just discussing. And that's why I wanted to focus on that this time, Dr. Velma, because there is, again, to the point I made at the very beginning of the conversation, there's so much in both of these books, but especially in the nonfiction book there's so much that I think our audience can take away. So I want to ask you, for those who did enjoy the novel, why would you advise them to go ahead and pick up the homework basket?
If they enjoyed the novel and they picked up on some things, they really had aha moments reading, then they're going to want the homework basket so that they can go into more detail. And if they're interested in going into more detail about what Grayson provided his daughter, if they want to know more about those particular tools he provided her to work on herself, we just talked about a few that we break down in the homework basket, and then they're going to want to have that.
Well, I tell you, it is a great conversation, Dr. Velma. Always is. Every conversation is different. This one definitely was enjoyable. Again, everyone, Dr. Velma Bagby has been our guest. Make sure you guys pick up. I'm going to go ahead and highlight again on the Amazon side, The Catch No One Wants, the novel. You see it there. Also, The Catch No One Wants, the homework basket. You all see them there, both available in print as well as in Kindle. You will also notice other books by Dr. Velma that you'll find in the carousel, as well as her own personal story. I'm going to highlight it on the Amazon Live site. It's only 99 cents right now. My 70s Love Story. You guys can get it over there as well on Amazon. And Dr. Velma, how can our audience stay with you?
They can stay in touch with me on my website, drvelma.com, and I'm on all social media platforms. Feel free to connect with me on Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter as well. My profile page on Facebook, I'm there as well. So any one of those social media platforms, they can connect with me.
All right. And we actually have you tagged on Twitter as well on our page with this live broadcast. It's streaming live over there. So I have you tagged there. Dr. Velma, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for the time. Looking forward to speaking with you again.
Me too. Take care now.
Yeah, you as well. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. Until next time, I'm Cyrus Webb saying let's make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.